What I'm going to really quickly do is just share 4 ways in which you can see the fingering and the scale to make it much easier to see and to use. So the first tip that I'm going to share to help you do this is that there really is only one diminished scale. So what do I mean by that? Alright, let's take a C diminished scale, right? So if I play a C half-whole diminished scale, if I start that same scale on the second note, D flat, that's a D flat whole half diminished scale, but both of those contain the same notes. There isn't separate things or separate fingerings that you've got to know for both. I really just learn the one, and if I want to get the other scale, I will just start the scale on the second note, so that I've got that there. I'm a lazy guy and I don't like to sit around practicing scales, so really there's only one scale. You can just learn, or should I say one fingering, and that can be 2 different scales. If you would like tab or notation for any of these examples, then please visit my Patreon page, which is linked and listed below. And the second way in which you can see these diminished scales is by thinking about tetrachords. So tetrachords are just little 4-note scales which you can kind of put together to get a full scale. So I'm going to go to the key of G for this one, right? So if we take, say, a G half-whole diminished scale, there's 4 notes, G, A flat, B flat, B. Now if you think of another diminished scale which is a flat 5 away from that, that's D flat, that is going to give you another diminished scale, right? That's just what it is. So you can play the same thing and you've got the second half of your G diminished scale. G, D flat, keep on going, G, D flat, G, D flat, and that gives you the full scale. So that's I think an interesting way in which you can think about this as well. Alright, so just 2 diminished tetrachords strung together. G, D flat, G, D flat, etc. Alright, so the last thing really that I like to share here is that the diminished scale is just 2 diminished arpeggios strung together. Alright, so let's go back to our C diminished scale. So you can think of this as being, like I said, either a C half whole or a D flat whole half. So if you're thinking of it as being a D flat whole half, that has a D flat diminished 7 arpeggio. Now if you think of it as being a C, then that has a C diminished arpeggio as well. Alright, so both of those arpeggios are in that scale. See, that's another thing that I think makes it much easier to think about this when you're kind of learning it. Alright, so hopefully these 3 things will help demystify the diminished scale a little bit. If you haven't done so already, please consider hitting that subscribe button below so you get free access to all the future lessons which I'm going to share to help you become a better jazz guitarist.